Welcome to the Creating Responsible Companies podcast, episode number 20. We are continuing our series on working from home responsibly. We're recording this on April 7th, 2020 during the coronavirus pandemic. Today, we're talking with our guest, Karen Bartoszek, who is an expert in pet-friendly businesses. And it's going to be a really fun and important topic about working from home with pets. So we're talking about pet etiquette, and we're calling it Petiquette. My name is Barbara Anderson. I'm one of the founding partners of Destination Better. We're the company who brings you the Creating Responsible Companies podcast. And I'm excited to tell you about Karen. She is the founder of Pets Living the Dream, a business consulting firm that creates pet-friendly programs for cities and businesses alike. Her programs make cities and businesses stand out from their competition and win the praise of pet parents, especially the much-coveted Millennials and Gen Zs. She's a graduate of corporate America with over 20 years at AT&T and IBM and built her pet-friendly expertise as a side passion through her corporate career. She'll not only put the enormity of the pet industry into perspective, Karen will be sharing some practical tips for both pet owners and leaders of employees who are pet owners. You can find her tips at destinationbetter.com/20 for episode 20.
And hi, I'm Janet Craig, the other founding partner of Destination Better, the company who brings you the Creating Responsible Companies podcast. And Karen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
So this is a really interesting time because people are moving their offices home, which means that now they're moving their offices into places where we have children and pets and all kinds of other things that usually aren't in our office. So today, talking about pets, I think one of the things that Barbara just touched on was just the enormity of the pet industry. So there are a lot of people that have a lot of pets. They're at home, which is really amazing and wonderful, but sometimes working from home with pets, the balance. Can you give us an idea about like how many people actually out there have pets and how big is this industry and how is it impacting what we're going through right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do that. And enormity is a great word. The American Pet Products Association, they do, every 2 years they do a survey, and they did one in 2019, 2020, and they take a look at, national pet owners. And the statistics that came back this year is 67% of all households in the United States have a pet or two. And that equates to about 84.9 million households with pets. In 2018, millennials actually tipped the scales over boomers and are now the largest pet owning demographic. So when you think about those kind of numbers and you think about the demographic shift, you know that as people are working from home, there are going to be a ton of people with pets in their home offices. So a couple things I'd like to do in this podcast is I really wanted to talk about some ideas, some hints and tips for folks that have pets in their home offices and how to adjust to this new normal. The other thing is I want to talk about some ideas too that employers can implement and consider, use this shift as a potential team building opportunity. The overarching theme that I really wanted to get and message I really wanted to get across to is there's so much going on right now, and having flexibility at this time is so important. Once pets get adjusted to all the new sights and the new sounds, everybody they'll settle down. Well, for the most part, they'll settle down. But that's so important. Is just to give everybody a break right now.
It is such an interesting time, and we want to give a nod to how terrible the situation is and for so many, and such a horrific, terrible news that we hear day in and day out. And then on the other side, we're trying to balance that with people still are working and they're adjusting in this new normal that we're experiencing. But it was overnight, right? It wasn't like they said, okay, March 1st, everybody, if you have pets, you're going to need to stay at home with your pets. You're going to have to take care of them. You're going to have to make sure your kids are quiet. you still have to do work, and nobody was given any notice, right? In fact, we even have one of our team members had been paying for doggy daycare, and that business had to close temporarily because they couldn't keep their doors open because of the virus. So tell us a little bit in your words what petiquette is, or pet etiquette, Karen, and then why it matters.
Sure, happy to do that. And I understand earlier we had Sherry Sutton and Mary Williams that spoke about the guidelines for effective online meetings and good etiquette for people. And the idea of this presentation is to talk to the folks that have pets now in their home offices, and how can you have good good social skills for your pets. So that's the whole concept, is good social skills in an online work from home world.
So how did you get into this space, Karen?
Yeah, well, I'm as you mentioned earlier, I'm a graduate of corporate America. I worked for IBM, and back in the year 2000, I actually started working from home. So I spent many years working from home and had a dog. My dog at the time was Sabrina, and it was you had to kind of learn to roll with the flow of it. And who knew IBM was actually preparing me with the experience that I could share during a pandemic. What I did learn is that working from home, number one, can be extremely productive. And if you've got a pet by your side, it can really be really good for your soul. It just kind of keeps you balanced. So, some thoughts to consider too is, as we talk about petiquette and pets, pets, and why good pet behavior matters, is things I've always thought about is, number one, it's really important to be considerate to your coworkers, to the company that you work for. And I project managed the City of St. Pete Paws Pet Friendly Initiative. And each of the programs that we put in place, the key thing that we make sure we build into it is having respect for pet and non-pet people. There could be people that just aren't comfortable with pets for a number of different reasons, and you've got to take that into consideration. You really need to be respectful. It kind of leads into as much fun as the Zoom call with all the dogs going and starting to bark off, the whole bark off. that as fun as that was, in the long run, that may end up wearing thin, and people want to get back to business. So I think it's really important to take pet etiquette into consideration.
I think something that you just said, really, I hadn't really thought about pets are good for the soul. I have a cat, and it was a little bit of a transition for her to have me working from home with her not attacking my feet, every 30 minutes when she felt like she needed attention. But we're in such a stressful time right now, and pets tend to kind of bring the stress level down a little bit. So I would think that there are some, number one, it's okay to have a pet at home because it's good for your soul. But what are the other types of things and reasons why maybe some other good petiquette matters during such a stressful time for us?
Okay, yeah, well, petiquette is good for pets and their people. And, providing reassuring training really helps to build strong bonds between the pets and their people. It's a fun way to spend more time together. And you think about it too, when they finally open the gates and we can get out and be around each other, it'll be really fun to be able to show off, all the new skills that you've learned, these, good pet behavior skills with your friends, all your pet loving friends. The other part of this is, I really think this is a great time for employers to assess their pet friendly policies. With the stay-at-home orders that are in place right now, people are bonding with their pets so strongly. It's even greater scale than pre the pandemic, of course. But they provide comfort for us. They provide companionship during this isolation. When this is over, the pet friendliness is going to impact the workplace. It's going to impact hospitality space. It's going to impact travel. It's going to impact housing, because in the past it's been a nice to have. As we go forward, it's going to be a must have. It absolutely will be.
Yeah, I think you raise a really good point that what was initially kind of where the stay-at-home orders were sudden and we are all scrambling to make adjustments, it's going to have long-lasting impacts on businesses, on people's expectations about working, about being around their pets. So what are some things in the interim now, that some steps that pet owners can take in terms of etiquette?
Well, we think about both video and teleconference. There are some steps that you can take to help your pets become very good coworkers, and then some would say actually the very best coworkers. We're going to primarily focus on dogs, and that's because those tend to be the most vocal and the most visible. So one thing to say is, our pets are perceptive. They pick up on our emotions, our stressors, and there are many of those these days. And to help ourselves and our furry loved ones, there's a few things to consider. I think maintaining a routine, and this is actually something I learned when I was at IBM, it was really important for me to maintain a routine. I would get up in the morning, I'd get ready, I'd have breakfast, and I'd start my day. And pets roll with that. They appreciate that. So now that you're at home, things can be a bit off for the pets, but if you maintain that similar routine, that helps them. If you get up at a normal time, start work, things you would normally do, as well as, getting the pets outside of the normal time, feeding them at a normal time, having playtime. It's all good, and it really goes a long way, not just for the pets, but for yourself as well. Another idea I've had, and I think this works very well, is you want to think about, in preparation for a video call, what about taking your dog for a walk? Or playing with your cat, kind of getting, wearing off some of their extra energy, so that get on their call, and a tired pet is a quiet pet, so that's very helpful. One thing that's worked for me is distractions and having distractions. My dog now is Indy, and she and I went through the Canine Good Citizen certification, and personally I think she was a star. Did pick up on
Some pride there.
Yeah, a little bit. But she did pick up on all her commands, and she's also very food motivated. So they're not the healthiest treats, but I have treats on the desk that she really, really loves. And, when she starts to chirp a bit and bark a little bit, I'll shake the bag, and she will come over here, sit like a good girl, and wait for the treat and get really quiet. So that works wonderfully. But, for pet owners, just being able to, having things that their pets like, a certain toy, a safe chew bone, their treats that they like, having those available. There are a couple of different items out there too. I have this thing called a Furbo, and it's this video camera for pets, and you can toss treats. And it's a really great distraction. Usually if you're away from home, it's a smartphone app, and you can toss a treat wherever you're at, and it actually has, your voice actually speaks to the pet and shoots out the treat. And it's a great distraction. So that's something that can be used. The other thing is there's a service out there called Dog TV. And it is what it says. It is actually a television programming for pets. And it has, they've studied the music, and it's like the Zen-like music to calm the pets. And my understanding is right now that it is being made available for work-at-home employees. And it's free at this time. And it's available streaming, I think, like Roku, and different cable programs are making it available. So something also that could be tried. If you just thinking of the logistics and how your room's set up, or you're having your home office, if you have a window in that room and you have a barker, UPS trucks, a squirrel, a leaf, anything that goes by, you could have somebody barking. You may want to consider either just blocking the window, putting the blinds down. I understand you can order these films online to just put a distraction on the window so that the pets can't see out. But that's really a good thing to kind of just keep the visibility down a bit.
Those are all amazing tips. And what's really funny is that, which we're going to talk about, the, if you have to lock your pet in another room, like I had to do with my cat earlier. But even if you use that same virtual app and you had to lock your dog in another room, and maybe you could just use it to throw them a treat and maybe they would stay quiet. So I don't know if that would work, right? That would work for people.
Yeah.
I wonder if it would work for my crazy cat, whose name is Kitty, which I know is really original. But it's one of those things, you know, you can't always keep your eye on a cat because you never know where they are. But yeah, using technology and using some of those interesting apps to, if you did need to lock your animal away, to keep them from kind of making themselves known, as I like to say. So one of the things it's really interesting is Barbara and I have kind of transitioned to working from home, and everybody else that we work with for that matter, is kind of like, you know, other things that we could do if we can't lock them in a room, and if they get really nervous, you know, are there tips and tricks that we have that would, you know, is there a way for us to keep them close? And when we're upset, do they get upset? Like, what else can you help us with?
Yeah, keeping them close is a good idea. And keeping them locked out, I've seen some recommendations to do that. And unless you know your pet's going to react okay, I'm not a fan of locking them out of the room, because it can like increase the meowing, it can increase the bark, it can increase scratching and other destructive behaviors even so. Keeping them close, you know, can you set up a bed, a small bed, or there, you know, where they like to settle in, and have it close to you where they can just be, you know, near your side, because that in itself goes a long way. So that's something that I would say, you know, definitely try if you can, you know, set up their little bed right near you. I think that is very, very helpful. Okay, so really our reactions do matter. In pet training, I've often heard that it's training the pet owner versus the pet. And that really is true, because there's things that we can do that can just kind of keep the pet quiet and keep it calm. If we respond calmly, firmly and calmly, and sometimes it's even a do not establish eye contact type of thing. But pets will sometimes they'll you know, hit the screen, or they'll whine. A dog may whine, and it's just them trying to get our attention. And if we don't let them get the attention, it doesn't create a potentially bad, you know, behavior long term. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, like if not giving them positive reinforcement for something that you don't want them to continue to do.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly. So one really important tip that I can share too is the mute button is your friend.
I love that.
That is one thing when I have learned over the years, and it really is true, is you know, if you can just keep the mute button on, if you're not speaking, keeping the mute button on is very valuable. And oftentimes it's not just because you don't want your dog to bark. There's other noises that you don't want to have picked up on video.
And there's some opportunities now too that I think you just are such an expert in working in the tourism industry, and like you said with the city. What opportunities are there now, like team building? Because we think about team building as something in person, right, Karen?
It's true. We think about it in person, but yeah, this is a great opportunity for businesses. You know, from their perspective, you know, it's a great opportunity now to, you know, help take that edge off the anxiety that we have going, and that so many people are feeling. Some thoughts I had is actually from a video perspective. You could actually have awards. You could have awards for the best behaved pet, best picture, or even, you know, the most improved over time. So those could be kind of fun little games you could play. You could host a virtual yappy hour, and have a Zoom call at the end of the day, and people could get to know each other's pets, and, you know, just you know, show their pets and get to know each other at the same time. So great team building opportunity. Another thing is, right now with so many folks that are out of work, this could also be a way to bring the team together to do donations, and do online donations to shelters, and, you know, shelters that have food pantries. If you've got local pet stores that you know are collecting and could do online donation, or accept online donations for food for folks that need it, what a great way to do something good for the pet families, but also help keep that, you know, sustain that small business that really needs the help right now. So those are just some, you know, fun things that, you know, we could come up with. And then there's so many other things that you get your team together brainstorming. There's like so many fun things that can be done in this space.
I love your ideas, Karen, about building your team during this time, which is so difficult. And Janet and I work with some very large and small and medium-sized companies on helping them become more responsible socially and environmentally. And this series, we wanted to focus on the individual because our colleagues are trying to work through all of this. And so we were hoping it would give them some ideas. And one thing it reminds me is we've kind of take this concept of when I led global corporate responsibility at a company in Texas, a technology company, we had 3,000 employees on our campus. And so as one way to give back, we created the first ever in the US, as I understand it, on-site corporate pet adoption. And so we had the local humane society come on with a couple dozen pets at first. And we had volunteers, and we had it set up where people could look at the pets. And it was such a great combination because I always talk about this magic intersection of what does the community need most and what do we have? Mm-hmm. And what they needed was pets adopted during the week. And what we had was 3,000 fairly compensated, responsible adults who were interested in pets. And so at first, HR was not too thrilled about the idea. But nonetheless, we implemented it, and it was in this enormous success, and we wound up doing it, I think, every other month or quarterly. And it became something that families would even wait to adopt their pets based on this event, right? They knew it was coming. And so they would, upwards of 50 pets in a day would be adopted. And so I say that because what the side effect that we didn't expect it to have is that employees were so enamored at having the pets on site. We couldn't even find enough volunteer spots for people to pet the animals and take care of them. And so people would bring on food, donations, cash donations. But what was interesting too is some of the leaders would even say, okay, the pet adoptions here today, we're going to stop our meeting 15 minutes early so we can all go pet the pets. And so it had this great stress relief thing too. So talk about that a little bit, about the value of pets from that perspective.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Barbara, that's awesome. That is such a wonderful accomplishment that you've done. It's such a huge impact. That is awesome. So that's, as you mentioned, having the chance to go and pet the pets at the end of the meetings. Pets really are great healers. Especially at a time like where we're at right now. They bring us such comfort. They calm us. They keep us company. They keep us grounded and focused. They get us out of the house exercising. And side note, I always say is social distancing is important for pets too. But if anyone, the part of a pet is if anyone can keep you on a schedule, a pet can. You do not need to have a clock to know that it is dinner time. They will be there at your side. There are just so many benefits, health benefits to having pets, and the health benefits simply can't be overestimated. There's a bonus actually, and I don't know if it quite fits here, but it's something I've thought about is, if you're nervous about doing a presentation, if you look at your pet, to them you're the greatest thing in the world. You're the greatest person, and with that look of adoration that they give you, if you take a look at the furry one, you could move mountains, and you would move mountains for that pet. You absolutely would. And if you can go into that with that confidence builder, you have everything you need. So just kind of a sidebar on how powerful pets can be for us. But one thing that has been happening, and now that we're in this pandemic and this new normal, pets are family. This has been a rapidly growing trend, and it's across the nation, and one that's going to get even stronger as we get past the pandemic. The bonds being created now are the strongest, I think, that I've ever seen, and anything we've seen in the past. This represents a really interesting opportunity for businesses of all kinds. Workplaces, hospitality, travel, housing, and so many more. In thinking of the workplace, pets really do make great coworkers. Studies have shown that pet-friendly workplaces experience greater collaboration between employees when a pet is present. Stress levels are reduced, employees get more exercise, productivity increases. They've even seen a reduction in workplace gossip when there's pets around, because people would rather talk about their pets than other people, and every pet is adorable.
Right.
So some amazing perks that you get from having a pet-friendly workplace. Interesting statistic too is before the pandemic, 65% of millennials were asking if they could bring their pets to work. Post COVID-19, that number is going to increase exponentially. You know, our call to businesses right now is really start looking at your pet-friendly policies. Benefits socially, emotionally, economically are beyond measure, and they're just plain good for business. So that's my shout out on, you know, the pet-friendly space.
I love that. And Barbara and I talk a lot about environmental, social, and governance. ESG is what we do for companies. I think we're going to have to put a P in there, Barbara. I think we're going to have to work on.
I think it's under the social part, right?
Yeah, it is under the social part, but yeah, it needs to have its own. But I think those are really great. I think those are really great points, because we think about what pets do from a human perspective and how now we're being impacted with work at home and working at home with our pets. But I think what it's done is it's really opened up people's eyes to how important the pet industry is and how it really does impact business and is going to impact business in the future. And when we do get to open up travel again, how many of those millennials and Gen Zs want to travel with their pets or want to bring their pets to work. So I think that's a great, those are all really great points. I used to bring my dogs to work when I worked in manufacturing and commercial printing, and there were two enormous Labrador retrievers running around the office and running through the press department. It was really fun, and people loved it. It kept our stress levels down, and the pizza man who delivered pizza late at night didn't like it because the dogs were usually chasing them. But other than that, people still, somebody sent me a LinkedIn message the other day that said, I worked with you about 20 years ago and you had dogs in your office. That was really cool. I'm like, thanks. Yeah.
Trendsetter.
I guess so. So anyway, this has been just really great. So just to summarize, all of your amazing tips are going to be available at destinationbetter.com/20. That's the number 20. And it's rounding out and adding to our series that we're doing on working from home responsibly. We've talked about remote working strategies, how to have instant stress release, and now we know that that also applies to having our pets around us. How to have really productive virtual meetings, etiquette when working virtually, and now Karen with your super helpful tips. I think it's going to make working from home a breeze. So hopefully it will continue working out for everyone, even though we are under the safer at home orders and we're all going through some really stressful time with our friends and families, but we still have to remain somewhat productive in our work. So before we close, I just want to say thank you. And how can our listeners find you?
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. I thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this. The way they can find me is my website is petslivingthedream.com. And then I'm also out on Instagram as well on Pets Living the Dream. So,
that's awesome. I would love to see people posting pictures of their pets for their work their Petiquette. And
oh, that'd be awesome. Yes.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Wonderful. Yes.
Yeah. So petslivingthedream.com or Pets Living the Dream on Instagram. And I'm going to go take a picture of my cat right now and I'm going to put it up there.
Awesome.
I'll start the hashtag Petiquette. All right. Thank you so much again, Karen, for being with us. Barbara, is there anything else that you want to say to close?
No, I'm just still struck that basically 2/3 of U.S. households have pets. I think that's a strong statistic. And that 65% of millennial job seekers are looking for that. And I think Karen made the great point that businesses are not going to be the same. I think there's huge opportunities, I think, to engage pets, but I think also as a business owner or business leader to look at those public facing pet policies. And I don't know anyone who's more of an expert than you, Karen, and working with the city's policies and rolling those out and working in the tourism industry. And if anybody has any questions about how do you do this and what are the benefits, and I think, Karen, that you expressed so well that there's some people who are just so obsessed about their space. As much as you are, you're also pragmatic that there's impacts to the business that they have to manage through. And so I would encourage anybody who wants to implement any kind of policy or explore how to do that for their business, now's a good time, right? In a rebuilding mode, especially in the tourism industry, to contact you and talk through those details and how that can be done so that it could be a competitive advantage coming out on the other side when the travel industry picks up, or any business, right? You help certified businesses of all kinds as pet friendly.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And we appreciate everybody listening to Creating Responsible Companies, our special edition on working from home responsibly. So we've got some other episodes coming up that we look forward to having you join us on.